Backyard Professor Chess video. Let's do something fun this morning. Let's take a quick break from the Bobby Fischer series. I'll return to it. But I found in this magnificently wonderful, delightful, fabulous book, Chess to Enjoy by Andy Soltis. This is a fun, well, let me read the description real quick. A king's treasury of chess stories and unusual games and problems for budding masters, sideline kibitzers, and rainy Sunday afternoon beginners. So it's very interesting and fun games, anecdotal stories about the players and so on and so forth. This particular game was played by George Hatfield Dingley Gossip, and he's versing Jackson the Kentucky Lion Showalter. This is the New York tournament of 1889. Gossip is playing the black. The game is really interesting for a couple of reasons that you will see one and then I will explain the other. It was passed over for the Brilliancy prize, and I will show you the game that got the Brilliancy prize, and it was extremely controversial. Very interesting. Knight F3. In the meantime, we have a fantastic game. This is one of the most spectacular chess combinations that I have ever seen, and I'm just dying to show you this because it's so well done. E takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, and now knight takes c6. So the knight comes all the way down and through, all the way through the center, and they've exchanged some pieces, changing up his pawn structure on the queen side. Bishop d3, d5, black proceeds, hitting the center. White, instead of exchanging, pushes to hit the knight. So he puts the knight to g4, and white will castle. And bishop to c5. And bishop comes to f4. So they're developing pretty good. They're hitting the center pretty hard. It's kind of a different sort of development and game. And this was a real interesting move, but it wasn't probably the best move, but it was really definitely interesting on black's part. It did force white to put the bishop back to d2. And now the question is... No, that's not the question. The answer is take the central pawn with the knight. The rook will grab the file, pinning the knight to the king, which is always a good, powerful position. Queen's going to stop the... Well, at this point, it's not going to stop the pin, but it makes it so that he can't get a discovered check on him. And white's comfortable with continuing to develop, which is a cool little thing to see, of course. And now, look at this. Here comes white. White is going to go on the march. It makes sense, too, because he's got the queen to the king side. The king's not castled yet. He's got the bishop coming over. He's got the bishop coming over. And he's got a rook on the file. We've seen a lot of video games before where, with this setup, it can end up being a kingside attack. The thing white must be noticing at this point is, hey, he hasn't castled his king yet. So the idea, really, he's going to, it looks to me like he's attempting a kingside attack, but what you want to do if your opponent can't castle or won't castle is blow out the center and go get him. So we'll see how he handles this, and then all of a sudden he throws a surprise and a very good side to castle on, the queen side. This side makes sense because it takes the sting out of potential really deadly combinations onto the king side. Now white almost has to shift gears more or less. In a way. We'll see. We'll see. And the bishop does take g5. So, see, the intuition of black was correct to go that way. Because black's going to try to beat up this side. He simply bumps the f-pawn, which is useful. Bishop goes to h4, and now queen comes over to g7. Look at this. It makes sense that black wants to also pile on this side, moving his king out of the way and bring your pieces this way, because there's the white king. Makes really good sense. Yeah? I'm just saying. Now, white does this, check. Black simply moves out of check, and from this point, nothing really comes of that. The bishop does bump back down because you can see what's going on, right? Yeah, the rooks. Here come the rooks. The files toward the white king, absolutely. Put those rooks to work, the heavy pieces on the files, attacking the kings. And look who's got dominance in the center. Black. It makes perfect sense that black is going to be doing the major attacking. Can white defend is the question, and we will find out. Well, he doesn't take chances. He pulls the queen back. Knight comes back up to g4. We're starting the attack. However, white has a pretty good resource here. Bishop back to f1. Knight bumps back over to e5. He's trying to figure out, how do I break into this? And now a counterattack by white. That's kind of, that makes sense with the attack coming on. To counterattack, make black work for his fight, and before bishop g4, he does. However, he does it in a different way. In many videos, one of the things that we think while we're playing is, if my piece is attacked, I have to move it. Sometimes it helps, instead of reacting, and I play so much reactionary chess, I'm saying this for me especially. Rather than finding a better move, see, target. That's beautiful. Target. Yeah, your piece is being attacked, but the greater value piece of white is being attacked, and so it's like an intermediate move. In fact, it is an intermediate move. Very nice on black's part. So queen comes to b1, and now the bishop comes to d4, hitting the knight. Ooh, I just heard my heater kick on. Hold on before it interrupts me. Oh, yes! That's called an intermediate move to stop the heater from checking me before my king's in danger. Yeah, man. I heard the little click. All right, anyway, but now I've had a victorious morning no matter what happens on the chessboard now. So now he gets to d4, and he's hitting another target with another target behind that one. And, boy, what a fork. The rook and the rook fork, come to think of it. Yeah, that's fantastic. So an attack on a piece, and with the idea that instead of reacting, find a target, and then the target moves out of the way, and now find a target, which the knight is a target, but so is that square, because then he's got the beautiful bishop fork as targets. The target consciousness is really strong in this game. It's really quite well done. The one way to do this is queen to bishop 3. See, and the reason this attack is so successful, or at least this attempted tactic, the reason it is so successful, one, it pulled his queen on this side, when black wants to attack this side. Isn't that kind of cool how that works? So white on this side goes defensive because of the powerful tactic potential. But another thing is, he's already pushed his pawn up. Look at the weak dark squares here. Yeah, the weak dark squares because of the pawn push. So that makes sense. One way to defend is queen bishop 3, and now, blam, here comes the pawn thrust with the attack. He puts the rook to b1, and from here, the comment of Soltis is... The comment of Solstice is the combination that black uncorks here is one of the most spectacular that he's ever seen. And it really is. So let's take a look at the chess combination. Take a moment and look at this chessboard. Let's say I just started the video and showed this position. And let's say, well, let's read the position. What could we discover? That's a lot of fun to do in games. Sometimes I will simply open games at random, or chess books at random, and look at a diagram, and then try to read that position, and then read the comments and the ideas, or play through the game. That's how I found a lot of great Grandmaster games. Truly is. Let's watch this combination. It is incredible. And the thing I'm going to emphasize personally, in our 3 pillars, the center has been fought for and all that. The open files haven't been fought over quite so much. They haven't been utilized as much, which is the way these two played it. But the idea of targets is just really powerful here. The first thing with this combination that black puts together is the h4 hitting the target. And rightly so, because the bishop is a defender of the king side. Yeah? The bishop takes the pawn. And you go, really? Yeah, really, the bishop did take the pawn. I'm not kidding. However, what this combination does is it changes white's position. And that's what's important to notice. It's real cool how he does this. Knight to f3, check. And you go, so he's pushed a pawn and lost a pawn. He pushes a knight and loses a knight. So he's throwing all of his attacking pieces away just to get white to change his position. And the answer is yes. That is crazy chess right there. Because now the bishop is up on the h-file and the king is directly open in an open file back with a queen backed by a rook. And the pawn structure has weakened, making the area around the king weaker. And we've got to remember this wonderful bishop that was threatening such a fantastic fork is now pinning a pawn to a king across in an open file from a queen and a rook, and a potential combination, or fork with the king and the rook. So black has a wickedly, deceptively powerful setup. And this is quite interesting to see. Now, bishop takes f3, discovered check. One of the most powerful tools to use according to Artur Yusupov. And I will do videos on discovered checks also. Bishop comes back to g3, trying to protect the king, and he does a good job of it because he has both pawns protecting the bishop. So it's not likely that he's going to do a direct thrust at this point. And so what does black do? He does a direct thrust at this point. Check. You're going, wow, that's quite the move right there. He cannot retake with this pawn because of the pin. So it's a forced maneuver to get rid of this pawn, or to at least change that pawn's place in the area of the king. So it closes the G file and it opens the H file. Yeah? With this pawn still pinned, and of course the white bishop, and white is in deadly serious trouble. And now rook takes G3. What a direct sacrifice of piece after piece after piece to break open this king side. This is one of the best ones I've seen in a long time. This is very similar to so many of Alexander Alekhine attacks that I've seen in the past. So at this point, the king comes to H2, and now the bishop takes F2, and here it comes, man. This white is in trouble because now there is no way to avoid checkmate at all. The game is over. It was here that white resigned. And oh no, it wasn't. He went to bishop h3. Sorry, I lied. He went to bishop h3, but a mate is unavoidable simply because now you're again losing the exchange. I mean, man, he's thrown a pawn, a knight, a bishop, and now a rook into this position to get this king alone. Very, very interesting how he does this. And then, of course, the rook. The open files. Open files and target acquisitions. And he had the center somewhat controlled here, but he was so dominant because of the open files that he didn't have to worry about center. Nothing of white came through the center. So that is an absolutely awesome illustration of the idea of targets and the value of targets. Now what I want to do is I'm going to reset up the board and I'm going to show you another game in this same tournament. And we're going to compare. This game did not receive the Brilliancy prize. And the game that did receive the Brilliancy prize is so awesome to show you. I want to show you that one too. So you get 2 Brilliancies in one video. Yeah, baby. I aim to please. What the heck? Hang on, I'll be right back. This other game in the tournament was by Max Weiss. And he was against W.H.K. Pollock in New York, 1889. And we've got a king pawn opening, e4, e5, and a knight f3, knight c6, and a bishop. Yeah. We have a bishop b5 and an a6. And the bishop goes to a4, and now he brings his other knight. This is a typical Ruy Lopez. Very good little Ruy Lopez here. And b5, he's going to immediately back down the bishop, back to b3, and then bishop comes to c5. And c3, he wants to open this up to let the bishop back in case he really does get hit, and he goes to the center. This is proper. You'll want to attack the center. The center is the important one to make sure you're clear on in any of the openings as far as that goes. E takes d5, and now knight takes the d5. So it looks like black has built up the stronger center at this point, but white has the pawn capability of taking that center away from black. Oh, queen e2. And now black will castle. And queen comes straight up d4. Now here comes the interesting exchanges and fireworks. this is kind of interesting how they played this. Bishop to e6, they're still building up. And now, knight takes the e5 pawn. And that was considered an interesting move, but probably not the most accurate way to attack the center. And the knight takes the knight. And the queen takes the knight. So the queen is right in the heart of this. Notice how they are each fighting for the center really strongly. Knight to b4. What a move. Looking, of course, to the c2. And now, white will castle. And knight instead takes d3, forking the queen and the bishop here, which is kind of interesting. The queen comes over to h5, onto the king side where he was castled, and then this bishop takes the bishop on b3. And of course, A will take the bishop. That makes perfect sense. And then black does what we want to do as often as possible. He does not neglect this part of his game. He grabs the file. Rook e8. Knight will develop to d2. Yeah, see, and this is good because white needs to get the pieces rolling. Yeah, you can't leave out your queen side. No way. Queen to e7. He wants to use that file, doesn't he? He's looking, for all intent and purposes. White also acquires a target. And bishop takes f2 check. So in the process of acquiring a target, he enhances the attack of black. King will come to h1. He's got a great setup here if he plays it right. Queen comes to e1, kablam. Open file, using the file. What a direct attack, yeah? A queen sacrifice into this attack. He's got a great setup because, one, black has developed all his pieces. White has not. We need to see the cause of black's successful attack. This is it. So let's take a moment and recap. There are two pieces, and actually there's no prospect of him developing the bishop and putting his rooks together. Black has no such problem. His rooks are connected. He has acquired the file with his power pieces. He is using the file, and he can bring the other rook into another file if he desires to. That is why he can attack with the queen like that. And his minor pieces are truly better than white's minor pieces. Remember, Jeremy Silman said, the minor piece war is one of the most important parts of your chess game. We strive to make our minor pieces superior to our opponents, and there is absolutely no question that is what black has done. Our three pillars from the beginner intermediate point of view to keep chess more simple, control of the center. Actually, black's control of the center here is through the open file, isn't it? It's not possessing it. He has a terrific knight. It's not possessing it with pawns and pieces. It's absolutely having the open file through the center and the development, all of his pieces, and better placement of those pieces that gives him the control of the center through the use of the open file and acquiring targets. You see how that works? Look at the contrast of white. The queen is all alone. She is the most powerful piece, no question. But she can't do it by herself. Not when there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces on the board still. The queen is the most powerful, but man, you've got to find a way to develop your pieces faster. So this is a great little lesson for us. H3, yeah, he's got to give himself an escape route now. It's too late. Watch the interesting tactic here, or the interesting exchange. It is a tactic. It's an exchange. He'll take the bishop first. Yeah, really interesting here. And of course, the rook will take the queen. So it's a queen sacrifice. Now, instead of exchanging with the bishop, that doesn't give him a forcing move. It's better to use what? The rook on the open file. You got that rook on the open file to use it. Check. The forcing move is the better move. King to h2. And now bishop to g1. He's going to flush the king out. King comes to g3. And rook comes back up to e3. Check. King comes to g4. And bring in the knight back. Come back out and support your bishop from that nasty rook if he wants to think of taking it. So white put the knight to f1, trying to keep as many pieces active and into this, and now the target. Target, man. It's a forcing move. In this case, because black has such an attack, and because the king here is exposed more, and truly, I think, because this rook has access instantly to this king and the queen, white has to react. He can't ignore the threat to the queen for the other reason that two of his pieces are still on the back rank. White has no real dangerous threats or counter threats of his own. And so black has the initiative, and he's keeping it. That's why I'm showing you all of this. So the queen must react, puts her at the best spot he can think of, d5, and target. Yeah, check. Go after the king. He's in the open, man. Go after the king. King comes to g5. And now a very cool little move. We want to checkmate that king. We've got the power. King to g7. The king is also a fighting piece. This seals off any escape route. Kind of nice. Just hemming him in a little bit more. He took the time to make that quiet little move. Very nice. Knight does take e3. If you're white, you got to get rid of as many of these attacking pieces as you possibly can. And now f6 check. And I believe here, yeah, it was here that white resigned because he mates in 2. Let's see if I got this right. He didn't show the mate. I had to work through it. Yeah, the bishop f2, check. And now the g3, because the king literally has nowhere to go, so he blocks the check, but to no effect because the bishop simply takes the pawn and goes checkmate. Now that is a nice, concise, clever attack and a win. But was it as brilliant as that breathtaking combination we saw in the previous game? This is the game that won the Brilliancy prize as opposed to that other game. And so it was a big controversy. And, you know, periodically that controversy will flare up time and again because sometimes the Brilliancy judges just seem to get it wrong. My opinion, I think the first game was more brilliant. Both games were really nice to play through to see this idea. Both of these games, I think, had a real strong idea of targets. And so that's always good to refresh our brain. So, and they're fun little chess games to watch. So our three pillars, even in the 1880s, and they are throughout chess. And it's awesome to be able to see them at work and learn new ways of attack, new ways of defense, and so on and so forth. So there is your Saturday morning chess video. I've got a busy day ahead of me. I'm going to go get my day done. I want to get online in the chess club and do some chit-chatting and play some games. I'm going to do some rapid games, I think. It'll be later on today. And then tomorrow, my intention is to have a few more videos up. And I'm not going to go, I've been talking on the forum, and I think I like this idea. The Bobby Fischer series is really important, at least for improving our chess. But we want to have some videos that we can sit back and enjoy. Not that you're not enjoying Bobby Fischer's videos, but like one of the club members said, he said, with the Bobby Fischer series, I need to sit down with a notebook and take notes. That is an outstanding attitude. That would be my strong advice. So the Bobby Fischer videos are going to take a little bit more time because they are intending to be pedagogical. Whew, what a big word. In other words, they are going to teach us how to get better at chess. In the meantime, though, we can have fun, interesting chess, and I will intersperse that as well. So, anyway, be good, have fun, do well, be kind, speak favorably of others, try to do something nice today. If for no one else, for yourself. Be nice to yourself also. All right, I will see you guys in the next chess video.